Hello everyone. Today I'm going to explain and demonstrate our Lab 2 and 3 from our Python programming class. These codes or these programs are fairly simple, and I can say that the codes in here are part of the fundamental lessons from any programming languages. But this one, for me, is much simpler compared to other programming languages that I've encountered before, just like compared to C and Java. I can say that this one is much easier compared to C and Java because unlike Java and unlike C, Python uses a more clean and concise syntax. It is more English-like and can be easily read and understood by anyone that will attempt to read it. Unlike in Java, you have to declare unnecessary packages or imports just to scan and print something. In Python, you don't need that. You can quickly code, print, and scan immediately. So for this one, this is part 1 from the Lab 2. These are variables and data types. The program 1 is a student information. Again, this is a very simple program, a fundamental lesson that we must learn in order to excel in programming. So for the first line of code here, this is a variable, student ID, and it accepts input where the student or the user will enter his or her student ID. The second line of code here is a full name variable that also accepts input, and this one accepts the full name of the student or the user. The fourth line of code here is the grade 1 variable. Same goes for the fifth and sixth line of code here, grade 2 and grade 3. These are all variable, float variable to be exact. They all accept an input for the first grade, second grade, and the third grade. And the eighth line of code here also accepts input for the user to enter his or her section. The 10th line of code here is to calculate the, let's say, the average. Here is total. It is equals to the grades 1, the variable grade 1, plus the variable grade 2, and plus the variable grade 3. This total variable adds all the grades variable from the previous lines. And the 11th line of code is an average variable, and it is equals to the total variable divided into 3. This is used to compute the average of all the variable grades, which are the grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. And this one, line 13, this is just a simple print statement with a new line. I use this to make a simple spacing for it to look better when you run the program. So the 5th line of code up to the 20th line of code, these are all just the print statements. The first one is print student report. This will serve as the header. And the next one is a print statement again using f strings. All of this from 16 to 20, they all use f strings. F string is a way of printing in Python. F strings means formatted strings, if I remember correctly. This is the easiest, I mean not the easiest, but it is the best way to print in my opinion because it can be easily read. Unlike other printing methods, you can use this even if you just want to print simple print statements, and you must use this if you are going to print a string and if you want to include a variable. For example, this one, printf id. This is the string, and this one enclosed in a curly brace is a student ID. This line of code prints ID and the student ID variable that the user previously used to enter his or her student ID. Same goes for the printf name. This prints the This prints the data that the user inputted from the full name variable. And for the next one, 18th line of code is the section. 19th line of code is the grades. This prints the grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. Again, f string enclosed in curly braces separated by commas to print all 3 of them. The 20th line of code is just f string, average string, and the average variable being called within a curly brace. And for the output, it will look like this. The student will enter his or her student ID. He or she will enter his full name, enter his first grade, enter his second grade, enter his third grade, and enter his section. And after this, the system will now print the student report, which is this one, the entire print section. This shows the ID, which is the inputted by the user, the name, section, all three grades in a float format or in a float data type. And the last one is the average, which is computed by adding the three grades and divided into 3. And that's it. Process finished with exit 0. No errors or warnings encountered with this program. So for the program 2, this is a salary calculator. Again, this is a simple program, just the fundamentals. First one is a bit cut off, but it states, it's a variable again, overtime pay. Overtime pay that is equals to overtime hours times overtime rate. Yeah, this calculates the salary of the user. Then the next one is gross salary is equals to the basic salary plus the overtime pay. These are all variables being added and assigned to a new variable. Again, new variable tax is equals to gross salary times the tax rate variable. And the next one, 13th line of code, is net salary is equals to gross salary minus the tax variable. So for the next line, from the 15th line to the 27th line, again, these are all the print statements that displays the data that the users inputted and the system calculated. The 17th and 8th line are just to print a formatting for it to look nice. This is it, as you can see at the bottom. The 19th line just prints again f string enclosed in a curly brace, the employee name variable. The 20th line, the basic salary string, the basic salary variable within a curly brace. And for it to print in a float 0.2 format, we have to use this colon 0.2f. 20th line is overtime hours string, and we will call the overtime hours variable within the curly brace here. Again, new line for spacing, f string overtime pay, then overtime variable in a 0.2 float format, gross salary string, and a gross salary variable in a 0.2 float format in a curly brace again, and print format the tax string and the tax variable again in a 0.2 float format, and lastly the net salary f string and net salary 0.2f in a curly brace. And the result of this program is this one, the formatting that I did here, the payslip and the dashes. The user will input his employee name, his basic salary, his overtime hours, then the overtime pay, gross salary, tax, and the net salary, which is automatically calculated by the system using these computations that we did and assigned to a new variable. And again, process finished with exit 0 code. That means no errors or warnings encountered with this program. So for the next part is the lab 3. Lab 3, program 3 online shopping cart. Wait, let me just check that. Program 3. Oh no, there are 3 programs for each part, sorry. This is still part of the lab 2, program 3 online shopping cart. Again, this is simple, just the fundamentals. This we have a total 3 as the variable, and it is equals to product 3 unit price multiplied by the product quantity variable. Excuse my variable naming that I use here. Total ng lahat. I use this for me to easily understand my code back when I'm coding this at the laboratory. So, but don't do this. Use proper naming conventions when it comes to variable. total ng lahat is equals to total 1 plus total 2 plus total 3. Then again, let's just ignore my Filipino comment here. It's just printing statements again. Line 30 up to line 41. Again, these are all just printing statements. First print line is the card summary, which is this one. For it to have some sort of formatting in a GUI-like feel, it's just a terminal print-like statement. Again, print in the F string, calling the product 1 quantity variable in the product 1 variable, and also the product unit price variable and the total 1 unit variable. And it just repeats product 2, product 3. And the final outcome of that code is this one. The user will enter the product, the beef, the quantity, the unit price, and the system will now compute all of them. Look at this. 1 pork, which is $200, 5 pieces of fish, which is $20 each. That will be equal to $100, and 2 pieces of beef, which is $300 a piece. That is equals to $600 in total. And the total sum, yeah, that's sum and total. That's the same. The total for this one is 6789. Yeah, there you go. Total of $900. Process finished with exit code 0. This program encountered no issues or error. It ran successfully. So the part 2, if I'm not mistaken, this is the lab 3 already. Part 2, conditional statements. The first program is a very common one, a leap year checker. This is we just use a year variable to accept an integer input, which the user will enter a year of his choice for the system to calculate if it's a leap year or a non-leap year. In order to do that, we have to use nested if-else. For this one, line 3 of the code, if year is divisible by 4 and equals to 0, it will be preceded with the if year is divisible by 100 and equals to 0. And next to that is if year is divisible by 4 and equal to 0. Divisible is a modulo. Equal to 0 means there must be no remaining for it to be true. If all of these are correct, it will then print f string again and call the year that the user inputted in the year variable is a leap year. If all of this condition fails, it will proceed to this one, which is the else condition. Print f year is not a leap year. This one, else print year is a leap year. This one, else print year is not a leap year. And the output will be this one. Oh, there's a lot of input here because I tried different inputs. First one is 2001, 2024, 2004, 2008, year 2000. There you go. 2000 is a leap year. 2000 is a leap year. 2001 is not a leap year. 2003 is not a leap year. 2077 from a game Cyberpunk 2077 is not a leap year. 2012 this is a leap year. 2024 and 2025 it's not a leap year. Again, no errors encountered with this code. So for the program 2, we have here again a very common one, a triangle identifier. So for this one, we have 3 variables: variable side 1, variable side 2, variable side 3. These 3 variables accepts float inputs. Oh, I forgot to mention that we can just accept inputs using input then enter the string. But by default, Python accepts inputs in a string format. It doesn't matter what you input numbers, letters, characters, it will always read your inputs as strings. So if we want to accept or if we want to store an integer or a float to our variable, we always have to convert that input string into an integer or into a float. For this one, instead of just using input and enter side 1, again, of course, the user will input a float number or an integer number, and the program will read that as a string. We have to use float function here in order to convert that string input into a float input and store it into the side 1 variable, side 2 variable, and side 3 variable. Just rinse and repeat. So after that, after the user inputs all the 3 sides, we will again use if conditions, the if, elif, and else condition. If side 1 is equals to side 2 and side 2 is equals to side 3, it will then print equilateral triangle. Else if this all fails, or if this fails, it will then check for this condition, side 1 is equals to side 2, or side 1 is equals to side 3, or side 2 is equals to side 3. It will then print a isosceles triangle. For the next one, 11 line of code, else if side 1 is not equals to side 2, not equals to side 3, it will then print scalene triangle. And for the else statement, this will be executed if all of this fails. It will then print not a valid triangle. And here's the output. Again, there's a lot of outputs here because I tried different inputs to print different outcomes. For this one, enter side 1, side 2, side 3, I've used 10, 10, 10. Of course, that triangle has an all equal sides. That's why it has a print output here. It says equilateral triangle. The next attempt I made is 10, 5, 10. This is an isosceles triangle. The third one is 10, 5, 3. That's a scalene triangle. And lastly, again, same numbers, 14, 14, 14. All equal sides, equilateral triangle. No errors, no warnings encountered with this program. It ran just fine. So for the next program, what do we have here? It's the program 3. Oh, this is program 3 already. This is program 2. This program, yeah, sure. Just about right. We have here our third and last program for our laboratory 3, the number comparison game. Again, this is just a simple code using the if-else condition. Again, we have here 3 variables, num1, num2, and num3. And we want to accept an integer value. Again, input function in Python always reads inputs as strings. That's why we always have to compute them according to our needs. In this case, enter first number, second number, and third number. We want to convert that into a string data type and store it into our num1, num2, and num3 variables. Here we have a largest num variable is equals to 0. And now we have our conditions, condition logic. If num1 is greater than num2, and means both conditions must be true in order for this line to be executed. And num1 and num3, it will do largest num is equals num1. It will then call this. Else if num2 is greater than num1, and again, both conditions must be true. Num2 and num3, largest num is equals to num2. And if both of this fails, else largest number is equals to num3. And for this one, it's line 14 to line 19. These are just print statement except 16 and 18. Print the largest number is the largest sum. This is a variable. This one, for this print statement, I'm not sure why I didn't use an f string. Maybe I forgot about it and just used a simple print statement here. Anyways, it's fine. It will still work. But again, it's better if we will use f string if we want to print a string and combine it into a variable. So line 16, if largest num variable is modulo 2 is equals to 0. Again, modulo is divisible by 2 and equals to 0. It will then print the largest number is even, else print the largest number is odd. So here's the output. Enter first number 10, enter second number -5, enter third number 3. The largest number is of course 10, which is calculated by the system because of our code. The largest number is even. It evaluated the largest number 10 if it's odd or even. Of course it's 10. It is evaluated by largest num divisible by 2, which is equals to 0, which is again true. That's why it is even. And again, no errors or warnings encountered in this program. So that's all. Again, these 6 programs are my laboratory 2 and laboratory 3 in our Python programming class. Each part has 3 programs within them. Laboratory 2 has student information system, salary calculator, online shopping cart, and for our laboratory 3 we have leap year checker, triangle identifier, and lastly, number comparison game. Thank you for watching. Again, that's my laboratory 2 and laboratory 3 for our Python programming class. Thank you.